Next up, we have a duo joining us today. So we have Frauke Hein and Dan Eames with their talk Transcending Gender. So Frauke is a data designer at Fjord, where she pairs data insights with visual cues in various industries. She has a background in statistics and data science, and her work is usually inspired by the data that surrounds us. Dan is a visual designer with Fjord Dublin, and he works primarily on visual information design. He mainly works with clients in the sustainability sector, and he believes that well-informed design is essential in order to positively affect our society. So, here they are. Give a big round of applause.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Dan, and this is Frauke. We're designers from Fjord Dublin, and we're pitching a small conceptual piece that we've been researching recently. As the title suggests, our talk addresses questions and evidence that we've encountered around gender and what happens when we include or exclude it as a design factor. So in society, we're fairly familiar that there's a commonly accepted gender binary, and that's divided into expectations of masculinity and femininity. However, an increasing number of people are finding new space outside of this binary, and they're beginning to question the existence of inherent gender norms that are embedded into everything we create and consume. So products and experiences are shifting away from characteristic gender norms and default gender settings. And at the same time, we can see that gender expression itself is actually proliferating. It remains a strong part of our individual identity and identification overall.
Right. So as organizations are striving towards gender balance and gender equality, the individuals to whom these organizations provide are actually requiring a much greater scope in terms of personal gender recognition. But the information age surges forward, and we can see that the gender binary is actually embedded into our technologies as it is into our society as a whole, and therefore reaches into all aspects of our lives and our lives as designers. Looking at the development of products, services, and systems, people are demanding that gender is treated much less deterministically, and therefore we must adapt gender assignments within all areas of design. But focusing specifically on the application of language, we can expect that the cornerstones of how we design voices and the use of language therein will move notably. Verbalizations in voice assistance and voice recognition might actually avoid a deployment of gender altogether.
Yeah, so take for example, there's a product called Q. It's a gender-neutral voice assistant, and we can see that the market is actually following the demand to break away from gender stereotypes in voice technologies. So this is an attempt to circumvent the society's obsession with assigning gender to all things. Alike personas in voice assistants, chatbots, and mediums, they're built to simulate or augment human conversations, and they, up until this point, have been predominantly female. Future of Conversations is the name of a project that our colleagues at the doc are working on, and it's an example of how conversational design is being used to address what is fair, just, and ethical in voice interfaces, gender being one such consideration. So and beyond products and services, you have systems, and we will see similar disruptions there as changing attitudes towards gender come to affect existing societal structures. Decreasing use of gender in things like jurisdiction, law, the military, and other public services is becoming a new societal objective.
However, we already are surrounded by systems that rely on algorithmic decision-making, which can take biases from historic data and propagate them further. Algorithmic fairness tools are built to build a better understanding of where and how these biases can be removed or how they actually impact the final decision. But we know that the relationship between language and gender is an age-old one. This can also be seen under the lens of technology, where natural language processing applications become readily available for everyone. Looking into research in academia, Brian Larson has proposed guidelines for how to use gender in applications of NLP, and he has created these rules in order to counteract unwanted biases in text analysis. But even when language is not explicitly addressed, it is not explicitly addressing gender, the tone of voice might actually convey notions of it. So specifically for job postings, analysis tools like Textio try to circumvent this and remove an inherent bias in our language. But having looked into this triangle of design, technology, and language, we actually asked ourselves 3 key questions. First, is gender becoming obsolete altogether?
And we think probably not. It will probably pertain as an integral part of our identity and therefore society.
And second, should we deprioritize gender or should we deprioritize it in design?
We think, again, maybe, but probably not. We should rather treat it properly and when appropriate.
And third and last, should gender be treated less deterministically in design?
Yes, we're thinking so. Some of you might have seen a recent article in the news about a London aquarium raising a genderless penguin chick. And we think if they're able to do that, then there's certainly opportunities for us all to move away from gender stigmatization across the board. Just to conclude, gender is becoming both increasingly paradoxical and is proliferating at the same time, and we should design with this in mind.